On the Marmara, 600 people on that ship, a totally different size of ship. I mean, a huge ship. 400 guys, 450 guys on board. A totally different atmosphere of helicopters coming over, of percussion grenades going off all through the ship. And then at some point, and this is why an investigation is very, very important, at what point was live ammunition being used? There are reports from an Al Jazeera reporter who was standing up on the top deck near the wheelhouse, near the captain of the ship, that as he was up there and the helicopters were starting to come and starting to, the commandos were rappelling down on ropes onto the upper deck, that the man standing next to him all of a sudden slumped over and blood was coming out of him, that he had been shot from above. If that's true, then one can anticipate that other people that were on that upper deck saw what happened and were not pleased with it. And that may be, and this is why the investigation is important, it may be what precipitated what we saw on that video, where you saw as the commandos started coming down, that there were guys on the upper deck that took sticks, that took railings that they had broken off and started beating those Israeli commandos. That was not part of the nonviolent resistance that they had decided on in the Mavi Marmara. That was not what they had decided to do at all. So something, I'm really interested to know what precipitated that, what we saw there. What we didn't see was that, I think that video lasted about 4 seconds, and we saw a lot of guys pounding on at least 3 of the Israeli commandos. What we didn't see was what followed next, which was the captain of the Mavi Marmara coming out of the wheelhouse, and the director of IHH, the International Humanitarian Organization, coming out to tell the guys in person and then on loudspeakers throughout the ship, stop beating these Israeli commandos. Stop beating them. That's not what we're doing. Stop beating them. And then appointing a Turkish doctor that was up on the top, that is a good friend of the director of IHH, who was told, you take these 3 guys, they're in your charge, and don't let anything more happen to them, and take them down to the first aid station that was on the ship. And that doctor did exactly that. And there's an interview of him that's in the New York Times that's very, very interesting, that he was saying that it was difficult to get the guys down the stairway because there were a lot of people on board the ship that had already started seeing other things happen on the ship, and they were mad, they were angry with these 3 Israeli commandos. But the commandos were taken down, they were treated. You've probably seen some pictures of at least one of them whose face was bloody. He was treated, and then all 3 of them were very quickly returned to Israeli control, because no one wanted it said that the ship had captured and was holding Israeli commandos. That was something we did not want, and they were returned virtually immediately to the control of the Israeli military. Well, during the next 25 to 30 minutes, though, as the commandos were going through the various levels on the ship, they started using live ammunition. And we now know that 9 people were killed. 5 of them were shot at very close range with bullets to their head. The one American citizen, and this is something the State Department has not publicized and our own media really has not publicized well, there was one of the 9 was an American citizen. He was not a Turkish American, he was an American. He was born from Turkish parents. He lived in the United States till age 2, and then his parents took him to Turkey. But for whatever reason, he never formally applied for Turkish citizenship. He was a resident of Turkey. And not that being an American citizen means you should have any special treatment. 9 deaths are horrible. All 9 deaths are horrible. But our government, the United States government, should make a stink when an American citizen is murdered. I mean, the Turkish government has certainly made a stink. The Turkish government has certainly made a very strong stand against 8 of its citizens and 1 of its residents who were murdered, and also the 50 other people that were shot. There were 50 more people that were shot there, many of them very, very seriously. I talked with some of the women who had been a part of the first aid station, the nurses. I mean, the call went out, please, anyone with medical experience, please come to the first aid station. We have serious injuries. And this was being broadcast to the Israeli military too. Please, if you have, we need your medical help. We have people that are dying right now. We have seriously wounded people. Please help. Please help. The women and men who had medical training went to the first aid station, and some of the nurses who we talked with 24 hours later, as we were all in the Israeli prison together, said that the blood was up to their ankles, that there was so much blood. There's so many people that had been wounded. And ultimately 9 died. 4 of them died in the first aid room, that they could not, there was nothing they could do for them. Many of the wounded were helicoptered to Israeli hospitals. Not many, I think it was like 15 of them. And 4 of them had to stay in the hospitals after we departed because they were so seriously injured that the Israeli government said they are unstable, they cannot be moved. And the Turkish government had medical people that were there to certify, and to be with them while they were still in the Israeli hospitals. With all 6 of the ships under control very quickly, and each one of them had their own type of resistance. On the other passenger ship, the passengers had formed a circle around the wheelhouse and were trying to prevent the commandos from entering the wheelhouse by locking arms, sitting down, and they were pushed away, shoved away. One American citizen, Paul LaRudy, who's been on several of the flotillas or several of the ships, he was pretty well pummeled by the commandos on that ship, to the point that he jumped overboard to get away from it. He jumped overboard, and this was like 5 in the morning, so it was still dark. And of course that did not endear him to the commandos, so when they fished him out, he got another pummeling, so the story goes. On one of the cargo ships, they had put concertina wire up around the upper part of the ship, so it would make it harder for the commandos to go up into that ship. So there were various types of resistance that was going on, but none of them with weapons, although the Israeli military, you probably saw the pictures of some knives that were there, and on the very first day they said, see, here are the weapons. And there was an axe that was there. Well, the axe is a normal complement of every ship. It's what you have to cut lines if there are problems. It was, to my knowledge, it was never used on anyone. There were knives that were there that were in the canteens, the places where the food was being prepared. I did hear one report was that one Israeli soldier had been stabbed. However, there's another report saying that an Israeli soldier, as he was rappelling down off the ropes, ran into one of the poles on the ship and gouged his leg. And that's another thing this investigation needs to be able to tell us. What happened to that young soldier? Was he injured because of a pole that he ran into, or was it because someone stabbed him? And that it's important for us to know, because the stabbing of anyone was nothing. I would be horrified if that happened.